human welfare and even lives are at stake. So this means that there have to be strict rules when it comes to creating devices that are used in medical procedures. So to make sure that they are certifiably safe and reliable. However, knowing your way around those regulations can almost be as challenging as learning all the associated ISO numbers that come attached. So, as we introduced, here to help us navigate the medical device regulatory pathways, did I do it right? Yes, it's Roger Mazzella. He is our global senior product manager in charge of the medical industry. He has over 15 years of experience managing products and services in the medtech industry. And Roger's role at Qt is to drive the product offering so that it is fit for the medtech industry. Please, Roger, do your thing.
All right, thanks, Patrick, and thanks everyone for staying online and participating. I know it's been a chock-full few hours for you, but we're going to round off today's session with looking at the medical industry, and specifically the medical device portion of the medical industry, and looking at how we as a software company kind of play into this whole regulatory space, and part of Qt's obviously value proposition is get to market faster. Well, when we look at medical devices and medical technology, especially the regulated portion of that, getting to market faster, you could develop as fast as lightning. But if we don't have and don't support and don't help you navigate the regulatory and compliance pathways, the time you save in development would be lost in your go-to-market, because this is the last step before having market clearance for your device product. So I'm going to go over what our offering summary is, and really, all the things that, and I was listening into a little bit of Mazzella's end of his talk, a lot of the protocols like MQTT, and I know there was a specific question about DDS and whatnot, that is not industry specific. Obviously, we're getting into IoT and medical, or what is being affectionately called IOMT, Internet of Medical Things. And so a lot of those protocols and a lot of these things apply across the different verticals. And Mazzella mentioned working with RTI. We do have a customer that is using Qt that is actually working with RTI to communicate over their DDS data bus. My point is that a lot of the products here that we're talking about are not medical specific. So what I'm going to look at today is really looking at what our medical customers communicate and what they value, talk about how we play in this space, but also take a specific look too at the regulations and the regulatory space, and how we can work with you hand in hand to make sure you're getting to market as efficiently and as fast and as safely as possible. So this first slide here, we're looking at what do Qt medical customers value. I've been with the Qt company for about 2 years, been on tons and tons of meetings with customers, and they've communicated to me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so, what do they value? And I think the number one value here is the capability to create safe, effective, intuitive user experiences with uncompromising performance and reliability. That gets looked over a lot, and some people look at cross-platform, and some people jump into some of that value. But really, when you look at the medical space and you look at medical devices specifically, safe and effective is really the drive for the US FDA, for the EU, and other ministries of health. So what I want you to do in this first bullet is picture yourself that you are a nurse or a doctor in an emergency in an operating room, let's say, and the one patient can be hooked up to as many as 10 different types of devices. Well, what we want to do is make sure that the nurse or the doctor or the clinician's focus is center of attention is on that patient. Okay, that's the center of their universe. They don't want to have to look at a device and babysit it. That if they activate it or do something, that they have to wait to make sure that the action is done reliably and done efficiently, and oh, by the way, it's safe and everything. We want that center of focus. So by building medical devices on top of the Qt framework, we're allowing the manufacturers to have a really tried and true way of developing the user experiences and the user interfaces and everything going around that, without having to worry about, reliability and being able to make things that are very intuitive. Talked about getting to market faster. We have really the best in class technology. We discussed, our approach that, yes, we want to make it easier for you to develop faster, but then we also want to support that regulatory process so that you can get to market faster and get that device cleared for market in all these different ministries of health. And we do that through not only our own resources by providing you with, different types of documentation, different types of transparency into our processes, but we also have industry-leading partners that can also be brought on to help you. We are a cross-platform development environment. The way I look at this too is that people look at cross-platform and they think cross-platform equals multi-platform, and it does. With this whole IoT, IOMT explosion in the industry, all the connected, hospitals and connected networks, sure, you may have a user interface, user experience on multiple different types of platforms, whether it be mobile platforms, embedded platforms, desktop platforms. So the cross-platform development environment is certainly important where you code once and deploy everywhere, but also it helps you future-proof your device. So if you start out, let's say, and you start your development to, let's say you're going to do on an OS like embedded Linux. And down the road, as you continue to develop and can continue to investigate and build your product, you say, you know what, embedded Linux really wasn't a choice. I'd rather go on QNX or I'd rather go on Integrity. Well, you're able to go ahead and make that pivot and make that change without, kind of recoding and redoing everything. Or if version 1 was on embedded Linux, for instance, and your version 2, you want to switch your operating system, the code can be ported over. So not only are we looking at multi-platform and a cross-platform development environment, but also future-proofing. We fully support your regulatory compliance process. We'll get into that a little bit more during our talk. And I can't stress enough that Qt is a development platform embedded already into FDA Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3 products, and EU certified Class 1A, 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. And these medical devices are currently on the market. In fact, Qt has been around since the mid-90s. One of our first products that we were built into was actually an ultrasound machine. So we have a long history and a long, well-established case studies in the medical space, specifically medical devices which are regulated for decades. And so we've been through, customers have been through the process, the stringent FDA and EU processes, and Qt has been built in there, and we're on the market and working in products all over the world. So, a lot of times, and I know Santu before talked about our device creation, product, and really, right now, most of our focus, or a lot of our requests, and a lot of people developing products, especially medical devices, are on our device creation product or embedded devices, and I'm sure Santu went over with, the performance of, we have an ultimate performance for embedded device creation with the power of native C++, QML or HTML5, the ability to scale down, the ability to scale up, creating these modern user experiences. Again, shorter time to market, the prototyping, be able to deploy and test on a target device from day one. Not having to be using the emulators in the desktop environment, but actually, prototyping off the target device. Ready to make a full stack of boot to Qt. It's ready made, and wide support of off-the-shelf hardware and software operating systems. And we're a trusted technology partner overall. And I know Santu spoke to this very well. My point here is that numerous projects that we're doing are using this device creation product, Qt for device creation, and and we're in multiple devices, many different types of medical devices all over the world. I could tell you that application development is also on the rise, with software now being regulated as a medical device, or SAMD, SAMD. So we are also getting more requests for developing medical applications, medical applications on our medical devices, and also, you know, handshaking where, you know, the device might be an embedded device, but then also they want it on a different mobile platform as well. So our offering, our medical offering, includes, you know, product features and functionality that are built with Qt. And then these product features and functionality, again, are not specific to the medical industry. You know, there are some definite features and functionality that are used within Qt, you know, the different widgets and different types of bolt-on tools and whatnot. You know, some people use the 3D Studio and so forth, you know, but it's the same product across the multiple industries. It's just, you know, this is being used, and there's certain features and functionality that are really, you know, a lot of our medical device developers specifically use on project-to-project basis. But then we also have an approach to regulatory and compliance, and supporting your regulatory and compliance efforts. And we also have a very deep into the industry, a lot of thought leadership, a lot of participation in different advisory boards and working groups, and I'll get into that a little bit later as well. So really what I want to focus on is our regulatory and compliance approach. You know, this is something that, again, we feel rounds out our go-to-market faster value proposition. So the way we look at it, and the way I look at it is, Qt, you know, in the medical device arena is really a 3 travel lane regulatory approach. So if you look at lane 1, and this picture is actually on the way into Boston from the east. It's our famous Tip O'Neill Tunnel. So I figured appropriate that I work out of the Boston office to kind of, you know, use this analogy and use this picture. So in lane 1, you know, it's really looking at what is Qt certified to. And in lane 2 is, okay, what do we as the Qt company provide for transparency and support for your regulatory and compliance efforts? And then lane 3 is really looking at, well, gee, if you need to access more markets, if you're in the US, let's say, and you want to access and get your product cleared for Brazil or for China or for Japan or for you know, other countries in South America, you know, how do you get that global market access? And we do have Qt partners that can help with that. So let's look at the multiple certifications that Qt possesses. Now, you might have heard a little bit of this from some earlier talks, but we are ISO 9001:2015 certified. You know, and with that, we have a quality system that is written and published for to this ISO standard. And then we have the Qt Safe Renderer. The Safe Renderer is certified to IEC 62304, which is a medical device safety and quality standard. IEC 61508, which is a overall functional safety standard, really applicable for kind of heavy industry. Defense looks at that as well. Aerospace aeronautics looks at that as well. So it's an overall very stringent functional safety standard. Then you look at the ISO 26262, which is a certification specific for the automotive industry. So one of the key functionalities is the Safe Renderer, obviously, because most of our certifications are to this specific tool. And this is a safety critical UI tool. So what happened is TÜV Nord is our notified body. And we went to them initially and said, okay, how do we get Qt, the Qt software certified? Gee, it's over 1 million lines of code, and it's really a lot of legacy code from over the decades. And they suggested to us under their advisement to say, you know, let's just certify what tool sets you consider safety critical. And so the Safe Renderer is just that type of a tool set. It renders safety critical UI. It controls how the graphic planes are displayed and can blank out layers. Monitors correct operation for the non-safety critical UI. And then it disables the non-safety UI if an error is detected in its operation, and will try to restart the non-safety UI if a failure is detected. In short, if the UI display crashes, the items that are rendered in the Safe Renderer will stay up on the display while they try to either reboot or correct the the items that are non-safety critical within the UI. So think of it again. Let's go back to looking at yourself as a nurse in an operating room. And your center of focus is that patient. Well, what happens if the screen goes blank? Well, there's kind of an oh gosh moment, or insert the language you like to do after the O, but there's an oh gosh moment that you say, man, this is totally disrupting the procedure. Now you're not focused on the patient. Now you're focused on that display being down, what that display was communicating. It could be a patient monitor display that's communicating heart rate, respiratory rate, and end-tidal CO2. So this could be a really difficult situation. But if there are certain things that are rendered that are deemed safety critical or mission critical, well, then you may have that oh gosh moment, but it's less of a disruption to the procedure at hand. Okay, the screen went down, but gee, I still see the heart rate. I still see the end-tidal CO2. I still see the respiration rate. Okay, let's keep working. Let's try to fix the problem. So this is a little bit more of a technical detail into into what the safe renderer does. Just what we're communicating here is that if you see the top mask, there's these icons, and we use an automotive industry example here because there is a specific certified standard that calls this out, that says that these telltales, which are the icons you see on kind of like the overlapped display or the overlapping display, that have to be rendered regardless if the rest of the UI goes down. Okay, so what happens is that if that digital display goes down, all of these icons will remain on the screen, and that is part of that ISO 26262 standard. Well, this is a requirement in the automotive industry. The good news is that there is no requirement in the medical industry for this, but the bad news is there's no real requirement for this from a standards point of view. So in looking and exercising those use cases, again, we look at this more as a non-disruptor, in the middle of a medical procedure versus, something that is, required, if you will. So again, here's the current version here. We had the current version, which renders static icons, text, and images, which you define as safety critical. I think that's the biggest thing. You, the developer, will define what the safety critical items are. Maybe the heart rate is, maybe it isn't, but you have the power to do that. The version that was actually released, and sorry, this is a little bit, this slide's a little bit outdated, it was actually released in the end of the year, now renders real-time numerical data. So the real-time data, like the heart rate, wasn't supported in our original version, but now as that number, the heart rate goes from 60 to 61 to 63, that is now supported, as well as text, kind of that dynamic text. So if the text is switching as well, like fill in areas or whatnot, that is also supported. And the roadmap beyond version 2.0 is we're looking at rendering actually the real-time waveforms. Right now, the waveforms in the picture there are not supported, but the numerics and the dynamic text is. And so I started talking about this medical use case example, talking about the non-disruption. And where it came from was I actually had a discussion with the director of bioinformatics of anesthesiology at UCLA Medical Center. This was an actual doctor. And they said, despite the existence of mechanical fail-safes, rendering safety critical information in the event of a computer system failure is important. So what happens is, in let's say an anesthesia device, he said, from a backup system type of point of view, if you can imagine an anesthesia device, the digital display goes down, that anesthesiologist is going behind it, actually manipulating mechanical valves and looking at mechanical needles, being, looking to make sure that the patient is still under the anesthetic, but also getting enough oxygen. So as a backup system, the safe renderer really doesn't, those backup systems will always be there for the anesthesia device and for other types of devices. However, the safety critical information can be displayed and, again, create more of a non-disruptive, not disrupting the procedure as much as possible. So that was lane one. That's what we're certified to, and the safe renderer is a big part of that. Lane two is actually, our support of the regulatory and compliance process. I think this is really where the rubber meets the road when we're working with our clients. Because per IEC 62304, QT is still considered in its entirety SOUP, or software of unknown provenance. So QT is not a medical device. Now, and to full disclosure, certifying the safe render is voluntary. We're not required to do that, but we want to align and harmonize our processes and literally be held to the same standard as our customers are. So that harmonization is there. But the rest of the 999,997 or 997,000 lines of code, excuse me, is not certified, right? That's the rest of the million lines of code past the 3,000 lines of code that the safe render is not certified, right? But we are still SOUP, and we still follow what our input needs to be from an IEC 62304 perspective. So this includes documentation and transparency into our development process, our product performance, and internal validation and testing. So it includes copies of our quality system, our development process, proof of internal testing, verification, validation. You have the source code, what our QA practices are, our bug reports, our bug triaging processes, and a lot more. So we want to give you as a customer full transparency into this, into our processes, also help you build that vendor file on QT. Because what you need to do at a very high level is de-risk your vendors, de-risk the third-party commercial off-the-shelf software solutions that you're working with. De-risk them for the auditors that are auditing you, whether it be from the FDA, the EU, from ISO, or whomever. And that's where we step in and really provide that support. The third part, I talked about leveraging partners for global market access. So a lot of times, I'll be talking about, FDA clearances and, EU and CE mark, and people go, oh, great. Well, we're having a bottleneck during our FDA 510K process. Can you help us out? No, we're not really the company to do that. What we will do is hook you into our partner, and our partner is the Emergo Group, and they're part of UL, and they're a US-based company with offices all over the world. And so this is a little bit of a breakdown of who the Emergo Group is. And so what we do is, if you have problem with global market clearances from a regulatory standpoint, or global compliance needs like testing and so forth, we can hook you into our partner, so this doesn't go down kind of a dead end, right? You can choose to if you need that help, we can certainly plug you into our partner that can help you. So the final part is the QT as a industry leader and looking at our thought leadership. So we are members of AdvaMed. We are a full digital member, and I'm part of the digital software standards and cybersecurity and data privacy working groups. So as part of that, through me, we are giving input and trying to drive the direction of leading edge issues and solutions in these different areas. We're also part of QMed's pre-qualified suppliers to the medical device and in vitro diagnostics industry. And we are here locally a member of MassMedic, which is, the kind of the industry organization, professional organization local to the New England area, which has a very rich biotech community. So AdvaMed here, they are the trade association that leads the effort to advance medical technology and to include healthier lives and healthier economies around the world. We are part of, a number of different working groups and providing our input and working shoulder to shoulder with all of our customers, trying to understand their, their issues and needs and kind of these leading edge problems, these day zero issues, and try to work well with them so we understand the issue and how QT can help fit in and help, mitigate or solve some of those issues. More on MassMedic. Really, MassMedic is the localized version of, the AdvaMed. AdvaMed is U.S., but also has global influences. MassMedic is local to the Massachusetts biotech industry. So a couple more minutes left. I just want to focus on some customer use cases. We do have an anesthesia use case in critical care devices. So a company called Medec out in Belgium. why QT? Well, they had faster UI development, the cross-platform code reuse, and they can certify their medical system. Our support of the 62304, as I explained, was really a difference maker because we were able to work hand in hand with them, not just on getting them and helping them develop faster, but also get to market faster. A lot of things that we're doing now is in medical training, so training the doctors. So OrCamp is one of the world's most realistic medical simulation suite. So this is basically a simulation of an operating room, and their simulation software is running on built with Qt. So a lot of this too is that a lot of the simulation, the training is also getting into kind of the AI and machine learning stuff. So we're kind of on the leading edge of a lot of this by having these types of use cases. There is a medical infusion pump that is on the market. Can't really disclose the name of that company, but I can definitely say that this infusion pump, which is a Class 3 device, delivers an advanced intravenous infusion management system. It's a smart infusion pump, and it's efficient for clinical use. It is a Class 3 medical device. And the real thing is this intuitive user interface similar to a smartphone communicating with back-end healthcare IT infrastructure. So, a lot of the infusion pumps every other infusion pump on the market now, it's this hybrid of like a touch screen, but buttons and knobs. This particular infusion pump that was built with Qt actually is fully touchscreen, the first one on the market. So as you can imagine, when you get to that innovative solution, Qt was still chosen. They had a great experience with them, and it can still build this safe and reliable a device, despite the fact that it's kind of a next generation thing and a virtually, untested in the field because infusion pumps were built a certain way and they've kind of pushed the envelope with their development. So that's all I had for today. I want to thank you all for participating and joining me. Patrick, I'm ready for questions when you are.
Yeah, thank you, Roger. Well done. Hey, I must say, I'm quite impressed. Hey, next time someone comes over and tells me how boring your presentations are, I'll tell them, hey, wrong.
Hey,
Shall we do some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
So here's one. Does Qt have FDA or EU certification?
We get that question a lot, Patrick. And so, again, Qt is not itself a medical device. So the FDA and the EU doesn't regulate us directly, but they do ask of our customers, and they do audit our customers to say, okay, again, it's all about de-risking your own internal processes as a manufacturer and developer, but also de-risking your vendors. So although we are not certified and not called to be certified, again, it's all about providing that transparency into our processes so that when you're audited, they feel assured that, hey, you really de-risked this as a vendor. We're a low risk and a good partner to have.
Okay. Here's another one. How do bugs as well as bug fixes in Qt get reported? I imagine that's a bug in a medical device that's is probably treated as a priority or is...
Yeah, we get that question all the time. So cybersecurity is really being hyper-focused, especially in the FDA. So what happened was the FDA looked at the Office of Inspector General and some of these, the Congress and government looked at the FDA and said, risk itself is looked at, or cybersecurity is looked at as a general risk, right? So it's lumped in with the risk of clinical risk, human factors risk, and cybersecurity. Well, what's being pressed on with the FDA, and I know the EU is following suit, that, hey, you got to separate out and really look at cybersecurity as its own risk, not lumped in with all this other stuff. So the cybersecurity environment and how they're regulating it and how they're looking to assure that we have safe cybersecurity devices is now evolving both in Europe and the US. And full disclosure, we are putting together our cybersecurity positioning, which should be out, within this year, actually by midpoint this year. But in lieu of that, what we're doing is, as we're putting this all together, what we get asked of a lot is bug fixes and bug reports, because we're talking about security patches and security updates. So the process is very easy. Bugs are reported to anyone, including customers, to the public bug tracker, which we have, that's at bugreports.qt.io. And it's an open bug tracker, which is very transparent, and anyone can track and see the progress, comments, priorities, and when the fix is planned. The bug gets fixed and then included in the next planned Qt release. So let's talk about Qt releases. You have 2 major Qt releases every year. So every 6 months, we go from like a version, let's say 5.12 to 5.13, 5.13 to 5.14, and so on. But between the 6-month release, we have patch releases like 5.10.1, let's say 5.10.2, and so on. And these patch releases are every 1 to 2 months. So with every release we do, minor or major, we push it out with a newsletter, blogs, and tweets with the information of what's changed and what's fixed. So we really have a good process of reporting these bugs, a good transparency of what bugs are still there and what bugs have been fixed and how we prioritize them. And so this all plays into how we treat cybersecurity seriously and trying to, again, position ourselves well so that you, the customer, are very confident in our approach to this part of risk, the cybersecurity risk.
I think that leaves us time for one more. And, ooh, look at this one. We have been mandated by our customer that all software must be IEC 62304 software safety classification C compliant. Safety classification C. On your website, it states Qt fully supports IEC 62304 certification and compliance. Can you please confirm if this is to classification C?
Yeah, and we get that a lot. So classification C is the highest classification. It's the riskiest type of devices that are being made, riskiest type of software that's being embedded into, the software is being embedded to kind of the riskiest. Let's talk it like almost associated with class 3, high risk devices, a high risk of patient harm or misuse or safety. So again, the 62304 applies to the safe renderer, right? And that is certified up to safety class C. So we have it built in A, B, and C all across the board. So that certification is up to the highest safety class. However, again, through your processes and through your assessment, you as a manufacturer have to also be certified to 62304. So what that may change on how your software architecture is, how you develop your own device, right? So we are, the one tool is certified safety class C, but again, the rest of Qt is just software of unknown provenance. So, as you make your case and as you discuss what your IEC 62304 safety class is, we will support those audits with the information that we do our due diligence to have a nice process of developing our software, keeping it bug free, testing it, making sure it's validated, making sure it works right, making sure the performance is there. So then what that does is you take that information and feed it into your own safety class certification, regardless if your product is A, B, or C.
All right. It seems that was all of them. Thank you for this little Q&A session, and thanks everyone for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to tune in again tomorrow. Wednesday and Thursday will be a bit more technical, more nuts and bolts developer matter. A couple of things we'll talk about is mastering Qt for Python in 20 minutes. It's going to be an exciting one. It didn't work for me. I'm not a master of Python yet, but maybe I need to watch it a second time. There's something about how to get the most out of the Qt Creator IDE. Qt widgets best practices for all those Qt widget gurus out there. We're going into internationalization and localization best practices, how we can a couple of very easy ways to adapt the language on your applications. So yes, make sure to tune in tomorrow. In the meantime, make sure to visit the Qt Virtual Tech Summit website. Have a look at the demos, the training session. There's lots of great stuff from Qt World Summit 2018 and beyond there. In that sense, good night, Roger.
Thanks so much, Patrick, and thanks everyone. Appreciate it.
And good night, everyone. Or good morning if you're in America.
Thank you, Patrick, and that concludes the session. If you're on the chat window, you can see the link to the event portal to access the recordings and also some of the on-demand tracks. Thank you very much and have a good rest of your day.